Lesson 4, we're going to practice filling images with color and also using certain brushes to enhance images with color. So the first thing we're going to walk through is just a simple fill, but also using blending modes for the fill. So to start this portion of the lecture, go ahead and do a File, Open, and navigate to the image called flower.jpg. This is going to be in the second folder of the zipped images you downloaded called Brush and Color. So we're going to open up Flower, JPEG, and I'm going to Command plus to zoom in a little bit. And the goal of this is to use a selection tool to select a petal of one of these flowers and then to fill it in with a color. So for this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and grab my quick selection tool. You can also hit W on your keyboard if you want to locate it in your toolbar. I'm going to go up to the options for the quick selection tool, and I'm going to increase the size of my brush maybe to about 20 pixels. Keep my hardness at 100% and close that. And then I'm just going to select one of these petals. Maybe I'll just select this one right here now. Zoom in a little bit more. And I'm gonna use the subtract and see if I can take away a little bit of this blue. So it's not perfect, but for the purposes of this lesson, I'm gonna go ahead and just show you how to fill this in. The next thing I want you to do is go up to the menu bar at the top and do an Edit, Fill. So pay close mind to these options so that it works properly for you, filling this in with the color. So under Contents, I want you to go ahead and select Color. And under Blending Mode, let's see, first we're going to select a color that we want. I'm going to just do a nice pink. And remember, you can always use these sliders to make a different color. So you'll go a little more purple. And click OK. And then Blending Mode is another option that you have control over when you fill something. And for this, we're going to go ahead and choose color, because if we choose the color blending mode, it's going to pick from the color that we just chose under Contents, and it's going to fill our selection with the color, but still retain the texture of the flower petal. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And you'll see it filled in. I can still see the petal shadows underneath. Now I'm going to do a Command D to deselect. Or of course you can go up to Select, Deselect. So that's filling with a color. So I'm going to go ahead and the next option I'm going to go over with you is how to replace a color. And this goal is a little bit different. This goal is to change the whole color of the black background from blue to a different shade. Maybe we'll choose, a nice yellow. So to change the color of a whole image, and again, you want to retain that tonality and texture, we're going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Replace Color. Seems pretty self-explanatory, right? So when the dialog box appears, what I want you to do is go ahead and hit the radial button that says Image, and I want you to go over the thumbnail with the dropper tool and select the blue of the blue background for this image. So notice when I select the blue with my eyedropper tool, up here in the top left corner, it now is saying the color that I selected, and it's showing the blue. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change the whole color of the background by adjusting these hue sliders and also saturation. So I can make it overly saturated or underly saturated, and the lightness. So you have control over that whole background. So fuzziness is an interesting option. Fuzziness is how you control how much of the blue pixels are being selected. So right now it looks really good. I don't see any of very much of the blue, maybe a little bit here in the corners remaining. But if you slide the slider down, you'll see slowly that the edges of the flower start to go back and all the way to blue, to the original. So as you slide the fuzziness slider up, the new shade of purple is slowly going to take over and kind of hide or color that blue up. So that's how you replace color of a background. So I'm going to zoom out again. So we've changed the petal of the color with a fill, and now we've changed the background color of this whole image using the replace color option. So the next thing I want to show you is the brush tool and blending modes. So you can also access the blending modes with the brush tool. So go ahead and navigate to your just plain old brush tool. You can hit B on your keyboard if you want to pull it up in your keyboard. Of course, my brush settings panel is open, so is my brushes panel, so I can see all the different options. But for this exercise, we just want a plain old, smaller brush. Again, remember, you can go ahead and use your bracket keys on your keyboard to make the brush a little smaller. I'm going to make it just a little smaller. I'm going to use about a 20 pixel brush. And up here in the brush options, you'll see there's word mode, and right now we're in normal. So what we're going to choose from this drop-down menu, again, is the mode color. And then we're going to go down to our foreground color box, and we're going to set the foreground to maybe I'll do a nice yellow. So this is the color I'm going to paint my brush. Maybe a little bit more obvious, do an orange, and click OK. And so what I just did is I told the brush to retain the texture. And you got to be a little careful or it spills out. And paint with that lovely orange color. So that is how you use the brush tool and blending modes. I'm going to go ahead and put this back to normal. The next thing I want to show you is the color replacement tool. It's under the brush tool panel. So we've got our brush tool, our pencil tool, and our color replacement tool. The color replacement tool is really a great option for changing colors. What it does is it samples the underlying color and replaces just that color when you paint and drag. So you have to be mindful of the tolerance. So you'll go up here and you see you've got my brush size, you've got the mode, which is color right now. We're going to stick with color. You've got a couple different limits that you want to be mindful of. One is contiguous, which is the default setting. And this is just the tool that only changes pixels that are in the same area of the crosshair, which is that little center kind of cross in the middle of my brush right now. So it'll just paint the area that the crosshair is in the center of the cursor is touching. So go ahead and we're going to try that. I'm going to pick a different color really quick. Yellow. And I want to stay within the white with that crosshair. And you'll see it's not bleeding past the edge of the petal because it knows that it just wants to paint white. The next option is discontiguous. And what this tool option does is it replaces the color of any pixel that matches the sample color and falls within the boundaries of the cursor, whether those pixels are in the same area as the crosshair or not. So let's pick a different color. And we're going to paint this. And it's staying within the boundaries. But the difference is that it's going to, keep within the color, whether the crosshair goes out or not. And then the last option is find edges. And find edges is great. It's able to see that contrast and it only changes the color of pixels that are in the same area as the crosshair. So it's way more precise than contiguous, but you still, and better detecting edges, but you still need to be careful. So we'll pick another shade really quick. And when you try this yourself, you'll see I can take my brush outside of the white, and it's still hugging the edges. So it sees that contrast between the purple background and the white of the petals. So this is a really fast way to you have to be as precise with your brush. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file revert or a file close. And we're going to move on to lesson 5.